Hey everyone, and welcome back to Miss Meredith Made. Miss Meredith Made is a channel all about helping teachers turn their expertise into extra income. So if you're here today, I am talking about how you can turn your teaching expertise into extra income by tutoring. So I do tutor, and this is how I do it. I'm not saying that it is gospel, but it is working for me. So you can take that how you want to take it. But again, I'm not in this video trying to come off like this is the end all be all, but I will say that all of what I'm about to say is how I do it and that it has worked very well for me. So to get into it, before you really start to advertise, you should have a tutoring email. So you can create the email account on any host that you prefer. But once you have a tutoring email for yourself, for example, like mine is literally just like my first name in tutoring. It's very simple. But once you have that, then you have a professional means to communicate with families. And it also keeps you safe. People don't have your private information, especially if you are going to be advertising online, such as how I do. You most certainly do not want scammers, spammers, etc. having your personal cell phone number or personal email. So once you have that, then you are going to want to create a professional tutoring flyer to advertise your services. You can choose how you want to use it. Some people like to print it off and literally like leave it in mailboxes or leave it at a local library for people to see. For me personally, this is the one I use. It is the one that I have also created. It is totally free on Miss Meredith Made. Don't feel like you have to use it, but it's there for you if you would like to give it a shot. It's editable, so what you do is you make it work for you, and then you download it as either a PNG, a JPEG, an image file. And how I do it, and again, this video is focusing on how I do it, even though there are other options. I advertise in local Facebook groups. So I search the area that I live in and the local community groups and moms groups. Those are wonderful ones to advertise in. And I literally download the flyer that I just showed you that is made for me. And then I just put a nice caption to go along with it. Literally just something like, hey everyone, my name is Meredith. Please see the below information regarding my tutoring services. And if you would like any more information or would like to schedule a tutoring session, please email me at my professional tutoring email. So once you have that, then you are in good shape. You're kind of at this point waiting for families to come to you because you have shared your tutoring services. I will say that I absolutely think that you should include your rate on your flyer. Otherwise, you are only going to get people that email you or comment, what's your rate? What's your hourly? How much do you charge? That's a lot of times what families really care about. So if you just put it on the flat flyer ready to go, then your questions will be more about, maybe they're curious if you are available to tutor at a different place. I only offer to tutor in a public setting. Again, because I am advertising online, I am very wary of meeting families at their houses or them coming to my house, again, for privacy, safety reasons. So my best recommendation for you, especially a lot of teachers are female, keep yourself safe and only tutor in a public place. This could be a coffee shop. This could be a local library. It could be anywhere in your community that you feel is public and safe to meet with these families, especially because you are advertising online. I thankfully have never had a really creepy or weird experience, but I can tell you right now that I would be shaking in my boots if I had to go meet somebody that I am talking to online at their home, or if they're coming over to my home. Like, who knows, it could be some 70-year-old creepy dude show up. So take care of yourself, and that's my best advice, is just protect yourself there. But anyway, so now that you have families hopefully emailing you, they may comment and say interested, just refer them back to your email professionally. Just say something like, hey, I would love to talk to you further. Thank you for your interest. Please email me at blank, okay? So once you're emailing them and you have all of your communications in one spot, another reason that you don't want to be commenting with these families or messaging them in Messenger is because it can get confusing. I, every year, have a waiting list of families. I get a lot of interest, and if I were handling communications in more than one spot other than my email, man, things would get confusing really quick. So just keep it in your email. Once you have that, scheduling is up to you because you are running this on your own. You can handle that however you would like to handle that, okay? How I handle scheduling is I really only have a couple of days that I am available to tutor, and I pretty much just straight up say, these are the days that I'm available to tutor, and these are the times that I have. Please let me know if one works for you. If one does, I will email you back a confirmation. That's how I handle it. What I don't really recommend is you saying, hey, what day and time will work for you for tutoring? Because even though you obviously want it to work for that family and you want to be flexible, you absolutely want to make sure that it works for your schedule first, because otherwise it looks a little bit unprofessional if they get back to you and say, well, I can do Tuesdays at 5, and then you're like, well, I can't do that. And it keeps on going back and forth and you're like, I can't do it. Tell them when you are available and let them pick out of your available time slots. It'll make it go so much smoother. That way they can pick one, or if none work, you just have to say, I'm so sorry that I couldn't fit you into my schedule this year. Please, look for me in the future. I can reach out to you if I have an opening. That's a professional way of handling it. Not everyone is going to work for your schedule. I turn families away all the time because they just simply can't fit into the schedule that I have available. It may be a little disappointing, but it's totally fine. You are running a business, and as long as you handle it kindly and professionally, nobody ever has given me a hard time about it. But another thing to keep in mind with scheduling is if you are scheduling like me to meet in a public setting, you want to make sure that the place is open for the times that you are scheduling, and you also want to make sure that, for example, if you are scheduling, let's say you get one for 4 p.m. and then another family says, that they can do one at 6, you might want to offer them, hey, is there any way that you could do 5:15? Because you already have one from 4 to 5. It would be nice so that you either don't have to sit there an hour or drive home and go back. Just keep that in mind and be honest with families. They never care if you are just open and honest. Things that they get frustrated with would be if you start like fibbing, and making yourself seeming like you're a lot more popular than you are. Like, I know that some people, I see a lot of tutors on these Facebook pages actually, and they'll just post every week and say, only one more spot available. And I'm like thinking, you're probably just using that as a sales tactic, which, there's a time and place for that. But I find it to be a little bit better if I'm just honest with families. I'll just straight up say, hey, is there any way that I can move you to 5? Because I would really love to not have to sit at the coffee shop or wherever I'm tutoring for an hour. And usually they're like, oh, absolutely. It's totally fine. Don't feel weird about doing it. If they say no, then you are running a business. It's up to you how you handle it. I would personally sit there and maybe prep for the next family, because I wouldn't want to get a reputation that I'm just dropping people like flies either. But just something to think about too, like when you're offering slots, sometimes I will literally try to fill in order of time. That way I have one, 4 to 5, 5:15 to 6:15, 6:20 to 7:20, whatever, what have you. But a lot of times I do try to have them back to back. And if somebody drops, then I move them around, and it's typically never been an issue for me whatsoever. So once you have people on your schedule, you of course need to be prepared for your tutoring session. And I am going to be focusing on your initial session. So your initial session, you want to come very prepared and look professional, because you are professional. Now, every single time I go to tutoring, I bring my tutoring planner. This is the one I use. This is on my Miss Meredith Made store that you can get. I'll show it here. However, if you would like to try a free version, I do have a free black and white, like polka dot themed version that you can also test out if you would like to use. It's literally the same thing, it's just not in color and it's not the leafy version. Now that free one, you do have to put in your email. And I know, like, you might just be like, oh, of course she's mentioning these things for you to buy. But people that know me and follow me know that typically I never do that. It's just that I so happen to have this stuff. And you know what? I always say you are more than welcome to make it on your own. But boy, does this kind of stuff, especially the planning type stuff, take a lot of time. So up to you what you want to do. But I'm just throwing it out there if you would like to grab it either for free or the colored version. But anyway, it's really good to come prepared, have a planner. It shows that you have put some effort into this instead of you just showing up with a pen and piece of paper, okay? And in here, I obviously can't really share it because I have, you know, private information about the students that I'm currently tutoring, but I always come prepared with the lessons that I am going to be doing. The initial session, I always do like benchmark assessing. So, you know, if you are tutoring a child like kindergarten going into first, then of course you may want to do some benchmark assessment on like letter identification, sounds, sight words, number identification, depending on what you're tutoring. You might just be tutoring reading or math, what have you. But you want to get a feel of what they can do and what they know. Otherwise, how do you have any clue of what to actually tutor them in? So the first session really should be like you gathering information on that student and in the grade specificity that you are focusing on. So that is definitely, you want to have that prepared to go for the initial session. One of the most important things that you should have going into the initial session is a parent-guardian contract for your tutoring sessions. You may be thinking, man, that seems like a little bit turn-off-ish. It seems like a little bit much. Some of my friends who are teachers, when I tell them, I'm like, yeah, I never tutor if I don't have a signed contract, and they'll giggle and they kind of laugh about it and they're like, you're crazy. And I'm like, no, I'm not, because there's a reason I have the contract. The reason I have the contract is to protect myself, protect my business, and because I learned the hard way, and when I first started, I did not have a contract. And unfortunately, all of the things in my contract are there because they have happened to me, sadly. So this is the contract that I use. Again, it's on my Teachers Pay Teachers store, but you're more than welcome to create one for yourself if you feel like it doesn't work for you, or if you're just like, I'm not buying from this girl, I don't know. But so the contract that I have, let me actually open it up in my binder. Again, I won't be able to show you it in my binder, but I will share it digitally with you all, just because I have obviously the name of the family that has signed. So as I'm trying to find it here, start thinking about some things that you feel like would be important, but I will share what I think is important. So the first one is simply that they agree to pay me. And I put my rate in there as well, that they agree to pay me in full my hourly rate. And I do say that failure to pay will result in discontinuation of services. Again, unfortunately, I have this in here because when I first started and I didn't have this, I did have a family that did not pay me. And, you know, it was really unfortunate. I think that they needed services and, you know, it just didn't fit within their budget, but you're running a business and it just is what it is. You have to protect yourself and you have to protect your business, and you can't get a reputation that you're giving services away for free. Even if you feel like, man, I would love to help this child for free, you just can't get a reputation for that. Stick to your guns and follow through. So that's my first one, is literally that they have to sign to agree to pay me. They also sign just simply giving permission for their child to be tutored by me. That way, if I'm in a public situation and there is somebody that is questioning what I'm doing with this child or what have you, I have it in writing that I am able to be with this child. That is the only one that I have never really had an issue with. I've never had somebody be like weirded out that I'm sitting there with a child that isn't mine, but I put it in there just in case, like, what if there's an emergency or something and I'm with this child and I'm like, you know, I'm not a family member of this child. You don't want to look like a creep, so just have that in there. I do have in my contract as well about late pickup and late drop off. I am very clear that they need to be dropping off their child on time, picking up on time, because I'm running a tight schedule and it's not fair for the children that are before or after them. And I also try to communicate as well that if they show up late, they're not getting a discount. So unfortunately, that is something I've experienced where a family has shown up literally half an hour into an hour session and they've asked for, you know, half of the rate cut off. Unfortunately, it's not my fault that you showed up half an hour late, so I charge for the whole session. I have sat here for the whole time. You know, again, you are a professional, you are running a business, you have to be strong-willed and that kind of thing. So again, you know, you can think about what you want in your contract, but these are things that have literally mostly happened. All of them mostly have happened to me. That's why I have them in here. I also do have a cancellation policy, just about, you know, making sure that they cancel within enough, you know, period of time, because I do plan for these sessions. And, you know, for example, I actually have a tutoring session scheduled for tomorrow that the family needed to cancel, and they canceled, you know, a couple days in advance, and that's perfectly fine because, you know, it's not like I'm like completely ready to go for that session quite yet. Typically I do it like the day before. So that's an important one too, that so that you don't have people canceling on you an hour before you may already be in the setting. You want to make sure that you have a cancellation policy, one that works for you. So again, I think that that is one of the most important things to have, because people will no-show you, people will cancel late, people will try to not pay you, and this is a way that protects you. I have been unfortunately no-showed, and because they signed the contract, I will email them the contract, remind them of the policy that they signed off on, and I will send them a method for them to digitally pay me, whether that is Venmo, Zelle, whatever you use. But I have always gotten my payment for that because they signed a contract. Now, of course, if you are having them sign on the initial meeting, like how I do, and they no-show you on the first meeting, then you don't have a signed contract. So you may want to email the contract over to the families digitally before your initial contract. I don't, just because I typically have never had an issue with the first session. It's typically once people get comfortable and then they try to take advantage, unfortunately. So just, I would talk with them personally about the contract so that they get to know you, and so that you can say, you know, hey, I'm understanding if they get sick, you know, if there's an illness, things like that, then yes, you can cancel a little bit later, but canceling without reason, you know, an hour before that's where, you know, I draw the line. And I do say that. I say these things, you know, out loud because I think that it's helpful for them to know, like, I'm flexible, I'm understanding. It's really just like if people completely ghost me and no-show me that I have a very bad issue with. But with the contract, you should be solid and you should be protected. So once you do the contract at the start, you're meeting with the family. A lot of times too, I give the family a questionnaire that they can fill out either while they wait at the public setting for the tutoring session to end, or sometimes the family waits in the car and they fill this out while they're waiting, etc. So the questionnaire just covers things like, does your child have a background in tutoring? If so, what did you like about it? What did you not like about it? It helps me get to know a little bit more about the background of the child, especially if there's anything really important that I should know, like if they have an IEP or a 504, things like that. I will share that here. Again, all this stuff is on Miss Meredith Made if you desire to check it out. Don't feel like you have to though, but it is there and it's exactly what I use. So that's really nice because it gives the family something to do while they wait, especially if they do sit very close to you while you're doing your session. It kind of helps ease that like awkwardness. If they're close to you, you kind of feel like, hey, they're focused on something, so they're not overly focused on us. That's something for you to think about too. Are you okay with families sticking around and sitting with you during sessions? I have a couple of families that like to do that. I personally have no issue with it because I'm very comfortable with teaching, and I just kind of feel like, hey, if they want to make sure that I'm safe or that I'm qualified, by all means do it. If you are a type of person that gets like really nervous and stage fright when people watch you, then you can professionally say something like, hey, I find that, children work a little bit better in an environment when their families aren't directly watching them. Please feel free to stay, but I just ask that you sit a little bit further away or something like that so that we can have a successful session. Doing something like that is totally fine. In fact, I actually, now that I think about it, did have one student a while back where the parent sat close and they were the type of child that acted out a little bit because their family was sitting close in proximity. Honestly, a lot of times it kind of helps because I think that a lot of children are adult pleasers, and they, in that setting, not only want to please me, but they also want to please their family member that's there. But in this case, it was a little bit different, and they were acting up because I think they wanted to get out of the session, etc. And I actually did have to say something like that, like, hey, I would love to see how it goes, with you sitting a little bit further away or waiting in your car, because I find that you being here is kind of like a little bit distracting to our sessions. And the family member was perfectly fine with it. Like, it's no big deal. Again, I think that sometimes people get like so nervous about just speaking up, and they get nervous about parent reactions. And honestly, because you're running this on your own, if a parent gives you a really hard time and is just like really rude, guess what? You don't have to work for them. You can literally dismiss them as a client, and you're not in a public school setting or traditional school setting where you have to deal with this family forever. If they are not a good fit, you can professionally let them know. So never feel bad for self-advocating for yourself. You want this to work for you. So once you've done the contract, the parent now or the guardian is filling out the questionnaire. You can get started with the student. And I start similar with the student with setting expectations. This is what I allow, don't allow in my session. Typically, it's something to do with like drinking water or a snack. You can decide what you like to do with that. Personally, I feel like for an hour, maybe if you come with a water bottle, if it's urgent, you can take a sip, or if you're absolutely starving, have a couple of things to snack on, but not the whole time because it's just so distracting. But that's just me, and you guys can come up with what works for you. You have a very limited time for your sessions. I do an hour. Some people do 45 minutes. Some people do half an hour. And even an hour feels so fast. I mean, seriously, all of you, it goes like this, so fast. So if there's distractions, it just makes things really, really difficult. So again, just set expectations with the student. And then once the expectations are kind of clear, I also do a student questionnaire with them, and it's very similar to the guardian one. And I'll literally just kind of be like, hey, this is going to be fun. It's going to be like an interview. I just want to get to know you a little bit better. And once that's done, and once I have a general feel on them, it's nice because now I know some things about them, and I can better pull resources to fit into things that they're interested in. If you are an educator, then you know that children learn a lot better when they are learning about something they're interested in. So it's going to help you in your future too. You can also ask the child if they are interested in learning anything about yourself, build that rapport from the start, and, just start building that mutual respect. Once you have those couple things done, then you're gonna jump into getting to know what the child knows academically. And you can start it off by, reminding them, you are not at school. I don't expect you to know any of this. Just do your best. And if you don't know something, you can skip it, because that's exactly it. You're trying to feel out what the child knows and doesn't know, and it will help guide you in your future tutoring sessions. Once that is finished, it really should bring you up to the end of the session. Of course, say something nice about the child at the end to the parent or guardian, and just say, they did wonderfully. I'm so looking forward to continuing these sessions with you all, and it's been a pleasure to meet you both. Say something really kind so that they end off on a positive note. So the only other really things that I have to kind of help you with this process, because now at this point, you know how I advertise, you know how you can schedule, you know the kind of basic framework of your first sessions. Of course, moving forward, you're going to use that benchmark assessment and see what they didn't know and base your future tutoring sessions off of that. Usually students that are coming for tutoring are behind. Very rarely do I have students that are ahead and they want enrichment, which does happen on occasion, but usually it's because they're behind. And I do have some tutoring kits for K going into first grade. I'll list the ones that I have here because I can't remember them all off the top of my head, honestly, but I do have these kits that kind of follow just generally what students are expected to know in these grades, because I have tutored these grades. That's why I have them. But it can be really nice to just kind of have a plan. These sets are all good for like at least a month of tutoring. So it can be good to get you started to kind of know what to expect, what your sessions should look like. If you are starting out and you're like, I have no idea how to plan for an hour, which I get it. Honestly, when I first started out, I was really off on timing. So I always recommend bring a book or some kind of learning game to fill time if you are really off like I was. Boy, was I off when I first started. So, which is so weird because I taught in a public setting, but things take a lot longer in that setting because you have more students, they're talkative. When you're one-on-one, things go quick. Do not underestimate that. Unless you just have a really attention to detailed student or a student that works really slowly, you actually need more stuff than you would expect because it's one-on-one. They're just going to work a little bit faster than having the normal distractions at school. So if you're interested in hey, it'd be really nice to kind of know what to expect for a couple of sessions, and these work for the grade levels that you're going to be tutoring, check them out because it'll give you a good framework after about a month, and then hopefully you can start planning some stuff on your own. But I would absolutely shoot out some reminders to families. So I typically do a reminder 1 week out, literally just email, looking forward to seeing you in a week. I will say the specifics, the date, the time, the place. And then typically I'll do another reminder either the day before or the day of. But I always do those 2 reminders because families are busy, okay? And you just want to make sure that you're not showing up without a student showing up. So that'll just help you out and help them out to keep the schedules on track. And you need to come up, of course, with your hourly session. I probably should have, or session rate. Probably should have said this at the start, but it's just that it really depends on where you live and the going rate for your area. I can share for my area, it is a little bit higher. I charge $50 an hour. And I actually moved not too long ago and I tutored in another community and the going rate there was $30. So it went up $20 based off of my move. So just be careful about where you live and what you're charging so that you don't seem outrageously low or outrageously high. Make sure that you're doing a little bit of research so that you can defend yourself and say, this is the going rate for the area. Other than that, I really think that's about it, other than once you get a good amount of students on your schedule, it is so important to stay organized. that when I first started, I wasn't, honestly, and it just got really messy because I was actually like getting concerned that I was double booking, etc., because I had no like one spot for all of this stuff. I was just keeping track or trying to keep track in the communications, and it got really difficult. So I really do like this planner. Again, remember that there's the free one and this one, but it has everything in it: calendar, lesson plan templates, you know, notes so that you can remember what happened with the child at the session. Literally so much is in this. I would check it out, at least the free version, just to get a feel of what you should be keeping track of so that you can run a successful tutoring business. I really hope that this video helps. I kind of did it in one swoop here, so if I didn't answer anything that you were really curious to know about, please leave it in my comments. But this is, again, just how I do it. I'm not saying that it is the perfect way of doing it, but it works for me and it has worked very well. I have a full schedule. A lot of times, including this time around, I am turning away families or have to create a waiting list. So thank you for being here. Again, any questions I will answer in the comments. And until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful time teaching and preparing, hopefully, for your new tutoring business.